the instruction manual. So these things are usually pretty handy to have. So this thing just came off the truck this morning, and it's the latest addition to my woodworking machines. And if you're a woodworker, you probably already know what this machine does. But if you're not and you're totally new to this, I'm gonna explain all about it. The only info I could find says that this thing weighs 6,000 kilograms. Yeah, I'm in for a challenge here. We're gonna try and move this thing, and once it's in the workshop, I'm gonna tell you all about it, what it does and why I got it, and also how I got it, because it's a kind of a cool story, I think. When suffering defeat, you're better off just licking your wounds and realizing your limitations. Then ponder about life and all of its challenges, then try again. So I made some calls, trying to find somebody in our area with a big enough loader that I could hire to come and help me out. I did find somebody, and they would be here in just a few days. So then I just got back to work and forgot about the machine for a while. I had a day to spare while I was waiting for some epoxy to cure, and so I took that opportunity to start framing a shed to house my sawmill. Now that there's 3 electric motors installed on that thing, it's time to get something in place to keep the rain and snow off of it.
Hej! Hej! Ska vi köra stora maskiner idag? Oj, 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 oj. Oh, oh.
I hear the sound of a loader. I'm getting a bit nervous. I think that's gonna do the job. Hej!
Hallå!
Välkommen! Den där borde klara. there was literally like this much space. Isn't that a beauty, Mira? Yes. This much of clearance in the door opening here. But he made it work somehow, and I'm super happy about that. The maximum width of the workpiece is 1100 millimeters, and I just love seeing things like this. It reminds me of my old tractor. All of the things that is gonna have to get lubed, you know, oiled or greased, and stuff like that is just invaluable, because these machines, they will run forever and ever and ever as long as they are properly taken care of. This is my very good friend Andreas. He runs a sawmill and sells huge slabs that he cuts from urban trees. Over the past year or two, we've developed quite the bromance, him and I. Anyway, the story, it goes like this. He wrote me one day and was all excited that another woodworking company in southern Sweden called Massiv Trädesign was getting rid of their old wide belt sander. They were basically giving it away to anyone who could facilitate the move of the machine from their site. And Andreas had first dibs. I was really excited for him, since these machines rarely come to market, and especially not for such a good deal like this. But after the initial excitement had settled, Andreas wasn't too sure about it. He has just so much going on right now, just doing his regular sawmilling, and so getting this white belt and all of its undertaking would probably sidetrack his kiln being built this spring. He made up his mind and asked the guys at Massiv Trädesign if he could pass the torch to me, and they kindly said yes. Luckily, the trucking company that I use to get big logs, they got a humongous crane on one of their trucks. So sending them down there wasn't really gonna be a problem for me. They needed a week to get the machine ready to be picked up, but as soon as that was in the clear, I could send the trucking guys down there and they easily picked it up. Okay, so here we are at the front of the machine. There's where you feed your tabletop or whatever it is that you need to get sanded. And this particular model has the sanding belts located at the bottom. So here we have the belly, and the heart of the machine are these two sanding belts. Now the nice thing about these machines is that this whole assembly is tilting constantly back and forth, making the belt on the rollers track a little bit different depending on the way of the tilt. And so the belt is constantly moving side to side like this. And as the material is passing over here, it creates kind of a zigzag pattern. They're not just plowing through in a straight line. It's actually creating more of a random pattern. And so as the material passes over to the fine sanding belt, it does a much better job of overlapping the previous grit, if that makes sense. What I really need to find out is how much power this thing is gonna need. Here we have the electric motors that power this thing, and they are huge. This large one here at the front is probably what powers the coarse sanding belt. Let's see if there's a tag somewhere. Oh, there's the tag. Here we go. So that's a 15 kilowatt motor. It's a 20 horsepower. And the other one looks a little bit smaller. It's 11 kilowatts, so that's a 15 horsepower motor. And over here is the motor that turns the feeding belt. So that's a 1.5 kilowatts. But it actually has a gearbox here, which is pretty cool. And so here's where you adjust the feed rate. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. This little girl just woke up. Anyway, the point I was trying to make is that you're constantly upgrading. You're constantly getting this new stuff, or old stuff, but it's bigger than your previous machine or whatever you're talking about. You're going from one machine to the other, and as soon as the other one isn't keeping up with your expectations and the way you work, that's when you need to upgrade. And that's what we all strive for, I guess. Isn't that right? So when your toys get dull and boring, you want new toys. And I'm just the same. So I guess we're all children in a sense. But eventually you get to the point where you know, there's a pretty big gap from using a random orbital sander by hand and acquiring a wide belt sander. Because the wide belt sander is gonna require so much more infrastructure. You need to have them, but the leap to get them is really big. And that's why I think a lot of woodworkers, you know, get stuck there. And it's the same thing with the sawmill as well. You know, you might have your Granberg Alaskan mill and you use that for a long time because buying a Wood-Miser is just such a huge leap. And the thing with sanding is that it's the same thing there. You of course you can buy these small drum sanders and get away with that for a while, but if you're trying to do this big wide tabletop slabs, and there's just no, you can't get around it. Either you're standing there sanding by hand with a random orbital sander, chugging away for hours at a time, or you finally bite the bullet and you get a machine that does the job for you. Because after doing it like 30-40 times, you're kind of sick of it in the end. So, I know. And I'm really happy that this machine has come to me, and I'm gonna do my best to put it in service. There's a lot of things that I'm gonna have to look over, and there's a lot of things I probably need to fix. There's a lot of unknowns, and usually those types of machines are quite the adventure. So we'll see what happens. But for now, I think I'm gonna go for a walk with this little girl, and I'll see you next time.